to Abnormal Japan, a podcast based in Tokyo. We share all about our life in Japan while diving into abnormal topics. You can find our episodes on all major platforms as well as Podbean, YouTube, and Spoon Radio. Stay updated by following Abnormal Japan on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Check out the blog site for more topic context. All the links will be in the description. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on our first episode of the Abnormal Podcast. My name is Bree, an Afro-Latina American from Houston, Texas. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a content creator and a kick-ass housewife. I'm here with my partner.
Oh, that's me, Ashish. Hey, what's up? I'm Ashish, a South Asian American from Denver, Colorado, but you know, Houston for life. My pronouns are he, they, and I am an English teacher and writer.
Awesome. So that's a little introduction of who we are. You'll get to know us throughout this series.
For sure.
All right. So the introduction of today's episode,
Ooh.
right? We're going to be going into detail about our experience living in Houston, Texas versus Tokyo, Japan.
Right.
Like the differences, the moving process, and the adjustment. Because that is a whole thing.
Right.
All right. So why did we move to Tokyo?
Right. So, long story short, I got a job and we were like, it's Tokyo, Japan, like, let's go. But no, I actually came here on the Japan Exchange Teaching Program, or the JET program, where essentially the Japanese government, like the national government, has a program where they reach out to other countries and hire English teachers directly through the Board of Education. So what they do is, you know, they go to like a whole bunch of countries all around the world and they try to hire ALTs, or assistant language teachers, which is what I do. Like I said, I'm an English teacher, so, you know, I work at a high school and yeah, that's it. They were like, hey, we have a job. Do you want to come? And I was like, give me a sec. We talked about it.
Yeah, we
and
talked
then we're
about
like, yeah,
it.
let's go.
Yeah. And we also were like, we had a desire to change location. Like,
For sure.
we were living in Texas for like a while. Like, for me, all my life.
Right.
But we just finished university and we've been there for like 6 years in that town.
Yeah, 6 years.
And geez, we were like, we need to move. And we were actually going to move to Austin, Texas before,
Right.
you know, you got the call about moving to Japan. And we were like, you know what? Let's just do it.
Right. And when we say Houston, it's not just like Metro Houston. Like, you know, we were
Like
in
the outskirts.
Yeah. We were in that whole like for anybody who's from Texas, y'all know how big Houston is. Y'all know what still falls under Houston. So
Exactly.
yeah, no matter where you go, it's still very similar. So like Japan was a real switch up in terms of like what we're experiencing.
Yeah. And it's not like Japan hasn't been on our radar ever. Like, we've always kind of like dived into Japan culture, like when we were younger and when we were teens.
Right.
So, I mean, we were kind of losing interest around this time period, but like we still were like, no, we should go to Japan. Like,
Yeah, like if the chance comes, we just saw it and took it and we're like, this could be great.
Exactly.
And we'll let you know how it goes as we're going along.
And if you have any questions about how it is to be a JET
Right.
ALT and a JET spouse, because that's what I am. I came as a JET spouse. We can do a whole episode on that. So
Yeah, for
just
sure.
send us an email or leave us a comment.
And also Google is your best friend. If y'all have questions, you know, hit Google, and if there's not information or if you want to hear our stories, let us know.
Exactly. All right. So let's talk about the differences of both cities. All right. So they're both major cities, but Houston has a whole different situation than Tokyo.
Yeah.
So what is the first difference you can think of when you think of Houston?
When I think of Houston, I think of like heartland, like Texas heartland. It's very like it's not super central to Texas, but it's close enough to the center where it feels like, you know, it's kind of the beating heart. Like a lot of stuff happens in Houston. It's very like expansive. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Like I cannot underestimate that. And yeah, that's what I think of Houston.
It's definitely very diverse. Like there's so many different cultures and languages and people. Like, if you don't even have to travel the world, I feel like, when you're in Houston, because you can literally meet all kinds of people.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
And something that we both noticed is that like the space.
For sure.
Like
what was it?
Mm-hmm.
I was saying like Tokyo is like watching like a vertical video, right? Like it's very narrow, and that's like kind of Japan in general, but Tokyo seems to be like kind of narrow in terms of like space or like, you know, buildings or whatever. And like Houston to me feels like, you know, you're watching video like widescreen, like you turn your phone sideways, it's like whoa.
Yeah, I mean they call it Texas Plains for a reason. I mean, you know, Houston has a lot of like buildings, so you can't really see that it's plain, like, you know, it's flat. But yeah, Texas is very wide. Like even just to get to a different city is like almost like 2 hours sometimes. So
yeah, it's a drive.
Exactly. All right, well that's something that we notice about a difference in Houston, but something about Tokyo. So I'll start.
Go.
Okay.
It's okay.
It's very homogenous.
Right.
It's a homogenous race, so it's a lot of Japanese people. Duh. Like you're in Japan, but like seriously, it is something that you really truly realize when you land here, because you're like, oh wow, like I'm different.
Right. So you said you lived in Texas like your whole life, right?
Exactly.
So what was your initial kind of impression when you like touched down, got off the plane? Like what were your thoughts?
Well, I just like landed and I was like, wow, there's a lot of like Japanese people and Asian people in general. So I was like, this is different. It wasn't a bad thing. I was just like, oh, okay. So I'm used to seeing all walks of life, but here was definitely like, you know, it was homogenous.
Yeah.
You know, essentially.
Right.
But yeah, also something else that I realized is that it's a very conservative culture. So like coming from Houston, people wear all kinds of different clothes, all different colors, hairstyles, everything. And here I felt like everyone kind of dressed similar.
Yeah.
You know, there's kind of like a work outfit vibe and like a chill vibe, but it's all kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
there's like definitely not outfits, but like I would say there's like what is it called, like styles or like looks, I guess. Like there's I work in an office look, or like I'm a teacher look, or like, you know, I'm off look, or like I'm going shopping look, like,
or I'm going to like a bar.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And
there's like looks that people will kind of like, they'll do their own thing. Clearly,
yeah, and if it's like Monday through Friday, there's definitely like everyone's in work clothes.
Oh my god, everyone's suited up.
And then like on Saturday and Sunday, it's like a whole different vibe. Like everyone's in casual clothes. But like I said, it's very conservative in Japan. Even in Tokyo, I would say. Like, and I know people have this vision of like Tokyo so like eccentric and weird. That's definitely like Harajuku, not all of Tokyo or even all of Japan. Like,
and Harajuku is pretty big. Like I wasn't expecting that.
I mean, it's big, but it's not that big.
I was expecting it to be like a small
it's like a street.
area. It's like a street, and then there's like a couple other streets, and like if you want to see like Tokyo fashion, like go to Harajuku, spend like a couple hours walking around. That's where like all the like uniqueness is.
Exactly.
But most everywhere else is like it's looks like this is my work look, or this is my you know casual look. Like I know what you mean. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's not as eccentric as you see like in animes or like descriptions, and it's different, but I mean, so that's something that I had to get kind of used to, was like, oh wow, like I feel like I was not only stick out by myself, but also like my clothes stick out.
True.
All right, so let's talk about some pros of each city.
All right, let's go.
So let's start up with Houston again. All right, so what's something that you miss, and it's also like a huge pro about living in Houston, Texas?
For me, I would say the food. Like y'all, if y'all know me, y'all know how much I love food. Like it is a cornerstone of like my personality. Like my YouTube is practically all food stuff. I love it because there's so much diversity of choice, and like it's in a good spot on the planet to where like it grows a lot of stuff and then it imports a lot of stuff, and like Houston is a port city, so like there's so much, like there's so much to try, and like You can go to so many different restaurants. I'm getting hyped
Or
just
like
talking
food
about it.
trucks, like
Oh my God, yes.
little markets. So that's definitely a good pro.
Yeah.
I would say the liveliness of it. So like people are usually just so excited. They're like on the go and like they say hi to you. It's like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
How's it going? It's a very southern thing as well, but also like the individuality. Like unlike Japan, like people in Houston like have their own style.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
it's
For
like
sure.
their own, and like it also, you can see it as a culture thing. Like America is very individualistic and Japan is very collectivist, so it makes sense. I'm not saying that people in Japan don't have their individual style. Like there's definitely those people, but as a whole, Houston wins on that part.
Yeah, I think in Japan, in particular, people try to like fit into molds of certain things, but fit into it in their own way. So like with the looks, like you can have an office look, but you can make it your own.
That's true.
With Houston, it's more so like, well, like in the States in general, but like with Houston in particular, I've noticed that people kind of will exemplify their personality through their style. That's the main thing.
And sometimes that helps you. Like
Yeah.
even in your jobs or like school, like the more you stick out, the more like opportunities you can get, because they're
For
like,
sure.
hey, you stick out. Like,
Right,
I
like
see
there's
you.
something about you. Here it's more so like what can you bring to the table in terms of like how well you work for the overall picture. So it is a very like collective kind of thing, even with like fashion and stuff. So I know what you mean.
Yeah, and like, okay, this is kind of like a side note when it comes to clothing, but I miss the whole like, okay, if you wanted to go to Walmart,
Right.
shout out for people who know Walmart. If you're from America, you know, or the States, yeah. And you could literally go in like PJs or like sweats and sports clothes, just like
Leisure.
real chill, like lazy vibe clothes. You can go, no one's really gonna bat an eye. If you do that here, people are gonna probably look at you.
Yeah, and it's like there is some weirdness about it because it's like, why are you looking at me? Like I'm just chilling.
I know, because sometimes I feel like people just dress up just to go to the market, and you're just like,
Yeah.
okay. But that's something I kind of miss. I mean, you can definitely still do it, but you know, it's different. You know, it's totally different. All right, so let's talk about some pros about Tokyo, because Tokyo is still pretty awesome.
Right. Before moving here, I was super hyped about like Japan toilets. I remember like
Yeah.
I was super hype about it. It's like, oh, you know, flush the toilet, wash your hands in the same sink. That's cool. But my pro has changed.
Okay.
It used to be toilets, because I realized when you're flushing, you have like a time limit to wash your hands.
Oh
So that
my
kind of
gosh,
stresses me out a
yeah.
little
You're
bit.
just like, and technically it's not long enough for
Right.
like proper hand washing. I mean, that's just like germaphobe me, but
it freaks me out a little bit. So I was super hype about that before. Now my pros are 100% transportation.
okay, yeah.
Hands down.
Hands down, yeah, you definitely do not need a car in Japan. Like maybe in certain parts,
Yeah,
but
true.
since we're talking about Tokyo, because that's where we live, you definitely do not need a car. There's trains, buses, you can bike, you can walk. We'll get into the whole transportation part, but that is a good pro.
All right, what's your pro?
Okay, I'm gonna add on something about the toilets. Okay, because I've heard about these toilets since forever about Japan.
A lot of it for me too.
Yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, they have really fancy toilets. And I'm like, what's so fancy about a bidet? No, there's like a whole remote. Like, and this is even in public toilets, and that may sound gross, but like they keep those toilets really clean.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so it's like a whole remote. You can change the water pressure, the heat of the seat. You can, you know, choose where the spray goes. Like, it's a whole thing. And
They have like a little noisemaker if you're a little nervous.
yeah, like it'll
it's
play like a
adorable.
little waterfall or something if you're nervous. Yeah, like, exactly. So that is really cool. Something that is something, I guess, something that we really enjoy and something that we choose when we like move locations is nature.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Tokyo does have a lot of concrete. It's very city, but we do live a little bit outside central. So there is a mountainous side, and Japan's still an island. So there's a lot of nature. And I like how they respect nature. Like there's a lot of parks. There's a lot of like
everywhere.
riversides.
Everywhere.
Exactly. So you still have that modern city vibe, but you can still enjoy nature everywhere you go.
And we are kind of outskirts Tokyo, but it's definitely like nature vibes. And even
Yes.
in the major city, you can see like there's parks and there's like office spaces with greenery. Buildings will have greenery. Vines are creeping over onto the trail yard, on the, what are they called, the train yards. Like it's super like, it's very unique, I think, because they do respect nature, and a lot of the architecture and the city planning kind of reflects that. Like a lot of the buildings and parks, and like it's super cool if you're into that kind of thing. Like if you're into seeing like where the parks are and where the rivers are and like all that, like it's super dope.
And I think it's because you really do experience the 4 seasons in Japan. So like I've noticed like there's certain sections of nature here that's like, this is where you want to go for fall. This is where you want to go for spring. And it's really amazing. So definitely they do respect nature while still becoming more and more modern. Yeah. So, all right. So I know a lot of people want to know about the cons. All right. So let's talk about the cons of Houston, just because like that's where we came from, you know. But Houston is very crowded. Like, it's just crowded. There's a lot of people. I think it's like the 3rd largest city in the States right now.
Right. And it also covers a lot of ground. And it's still crowded.
It's still crowded because unlike Japan, it's mainly just cars. Like, ain't nobody walking unless you really, really, really need to. You need to have a car. There's some buses, but that's mostly in central Houston.
Yeah, buses actually don't go out that well, they do, but there's like routes. Yeah. Like you can't just get a bus anywhere. And then it's
like, yeah, 1 person per car. So just imagine. So it gets pretty crowded. So I would say that's kind of a con because it's like...
Oh, for everybody who's like not a Texan, yeah, we don't ride horses. Like that's not a thing.
No.
Like some people do.
Yeah, if you have like a ranch or something.
Or if you have like a pet horse or like you work on a ranch or something, like that does happen, but people don't like ride horses everywhere.
No,
like that's
that would... I think that would be even more of a mess.
That'd be dangerous.
Dangerous. Like, yeah, exactly. I wouldn't trust people with horses.
People do drive like they're riding horses.
Yeah, that's true.
But like we don't ride.
No.
It's not like that. Just I had to clarify that there because I realized, wait, people outside of Texas might be listening to this.
Yeah. And yeah, driving is necessary. Just adding that on to the crowdedness. Like things are so far, driving is necessary. And yeah.
Driving is it's interesting because Houston is primarily like highways. There's a lot of like roads that are like 6+ lanes. And so there's that. And then there's also like, I understand people have like differing views on like the whole police situation, but there are a lot of police. So that's like, true. You know, feel how you will about that, but you're probably going to see one every couple of minutes because there's a lot of road to be patrolled.
And there's a lot of people too.
Right. And so that is an issue, but...
Yeah, you know. if you pay attention to the U.S. news, you know there's issues. Because in Japan, like, the police are in their little station and they don't really come out. That's true. You don't really see police here. So that's why, we would say... police is definitely like
there's definitely a presence, like you see them visibly.
I would consider it kind of a con because of the recent news, but
again, I know people feel differently about it, like on both sides of the fence, but again, you're gonna see them regardless. Like they're everywhere. It's pretty bananas.
Yeah. And then so with Tokyo, right, there are some cons. I can literally make like a list of like 100+ things, but let's just keep it simple, okay? And no hate to Japan, I love y'all Japan, but there are some things that I thought y'all would be like and y'all weren't that, and that's fine. It's probably not even your fault, but these are cons on my list. All right. Plastic. Okay, like I know y'all love nature, but wrapping every little thing in plastic and then putting it in a plastic bag and then putting that in a plastic bag is not going to help the earth.
It's a little weird. Like,
it's really something. So if we weren't like all about reusable bags and like reusable produce bags, we would be coming home with like pounds of plastic when we go shopping.
It's wild too, because like you'll see meat in styrofoam wrapped in plastic, which then when you're bagging it, you have to bag it yourself, but like when you bag it, or if they do it for you, they'll wrap that in plastic. And then if you don't have your own bags, they'll give you another plastic bag and charge you like 2-3 yen for it.
Exactly.
So like, it's
or like
wild.
if you go to the bakery, they wrap each little bakery item in plastic, and then they'll put that in a plastic bag, in another plastic bag, and you're just
and
like,
then they'll tape it. Like
and then they'll tape it. Yeah, exactly. So I would definitely say plastic is a problem, because a lot of produce at markets are covered in plastic. So, and then sometimes, like, if you want to get like mayo, I've seen like mayo also, like the container wrapped in plastic, or like ketchup bottles wrapped in plastic. And you're just like,
why?
Yeah, like a air bubble bag of plastic, and you're just like, the container protects the ketchup.
It's a very strange phenomenon.
So yeah, that would be one con for me. What about you?
Let's see. I think for me it would be some things, right? Okay. I know a lot of people think Japan is like a super high tech place. It is in certain areas. So I think, and this is really more of a Tokyo thing, I want to say, but Japan is a really good job of, widespread high-tech stuff, right? So like things like Line Messenger, which is, if you know what it is, it's kind of like WhatsApp or WeChat. It's like a thing, but you can pay for certain things in certain stores with Line on your phone. So you can use that. You have Suica, or like IC cards, like, which is like NFC paying. So you just reload a card, and it's like a subway pass, but you can use it on the bus, you can use it for taxis, you can use it for trains, you can use it at the convenience stores. Like, it's like an NFC payment thing that pretty much you can use anywhere. And then you can use like pay with your phone, and then like, Apple Pay, and like a lot of things are really widespread. So like they do a good job of kind of socializing a lot of, tech, but that doesn't trickle down to like every day. So like in my workplace, we use so much paper and like bureaucracy and papers. Like, I know a lot of people, if you go on like ALT Japan Twitter or whatever, people talk about like faxing paperwork, and it's like,
fax is still a thing here.
I can't take a photo and email it to you. Like, wow.
USB what?
You cannot use USBs at work. And I understand it's like a potential security thing, but like,
definitely it's not as advanced in technology as I would think Japan would be. So like you were saying, there's really cool IC card situations where it's very convenient, but toilets
right.
But then when it comes to online banking,
that's
or
one.
Like,
automatic bill pay,
and like you have to have like a cash card. Like, we'll go in depth about the whole bank situation and money situation, but tech wise, it's not as advanced. Exactly.
Like, you don't see robots just like walking around. Like, that's
no. I mean, like in little shops where they're like, oh cool, look at our robot. You're like, oh, and you can like put it on your Instagram and be like, hey, look, there's a robot. But it's definitely like not all of Japan.
It's definitely like decorative. It's not functional. Like a lot of high tech stuff is pretty functional and it's widespread, but it's not like what you think. You got anything else?
So I'm gonna like merge these two. So I would say, okay, we all know Japan has a high elder population. If you don't know, look it up.
Now you know.
Now you know. And I love elders. They're sweet, not all of them, but the majority of them are sweet. But with that comes a very conformist culture and a very traditionalist vibe, and that's okay. But when you're coming from the States, where things are a little bit more progressive and
welcoming in general,
and like it's more youthful, I feel like when you come here, it feels very conservative. You're like, oh, like I feel like I'm an adult here. Like I can't be joking around. On
one hand, it's cool because like there are elements of like tradition and culture and like keeping that alive. Like that's cool. But then at the same time, it makes it feel like you kind of have to be like more grown. You gotta be more of an adult, and I'm like, ugh.
And I don't like feeling like a rebel just for being like basic normal, like because I'm not that eccentric. Like I have eccentric ideas and I like eccentric
we have
things,
eccentric sides,
but I'm not like eccentric outwardly. But sometimes just even being normal or whatever, just like basic American, I feel kind of,
It's a bit
like
judgy.
I feel like a rebel.
Yeah,
like I'm like,
it's a
why
bit
should it feel like
judgy.
this? Yeah.
And I know we live kind of like in the outskirts or whatever. Like there just happened to be a high population of elders in our area. But like
That's true.
yeah, but even if you go into like Central or like, the Bay Area or like, the other side of the Bay, like you see a lot of old people, and that's just the fact of it. Like
Yeah. So I would say that's kind of a con because I'm more used to like a balanced population of like, the youth and like young adults and like elders. Here it's like, okay, there's a lot of elders, but
yeah, it's noticeable.
exactly.
Yeah.
We'll share some more cons in the future, but those are just basic. We're gonna,
Right.
Lightweight stuff, and we can go more in depth
sure.
in the future.
I actually read a meme from my boy Stowe. I'm gonna give him a shout out, Big Stowe on Twitter. He does music management, music journalism, all that. But he posted a meme on Instagram. It was like, retirement homes in like 2030 are just gonna be a bunch of old people playing Super Smash with The Office on replay. And I was like, retirement, that sounds nice.
I know, like let's see if we can get beyond these 12 years.
Right. Oh my god.
All right, so let's talk about the moving process because it sounds so cool that we're in Tokyo, Japan, but we still had to move overseas.
Right.
So first, I'm going to talk about how we made the decision to move. So Ashish, you mentioned how you got a teaching opportunity.
Right.
And then we talked about it. We're like, okay, let's do this.
Right.
And then, we're like, hey, we want to move anyways. So let's do it. And then we wanted a new experience, because we were getting a little tired of the same location for like 6+ years. But what I wanted to ask is, what made it a yes for you? Like, okay, this is why I'm moving, like for sure.
What made it a yes for sure was the fact that it would be a really solid income and experience opportunity at the same time. Like I know a lot of places will say like, oh, come work with us for like, this amount of time and it'll be good experience, or, we can pay you this much, but it's only a short amount of time. But this position was like, hey, it's a decent salary position and you get the experience of traveling as well. So like it was a really good combination. Like the pros, well, at least at the time, what I thought were the pros and cons were more balanced in the pro section than the con section. And like, the pros and cons of teaching in Japan could be a whole other episode, like in itself.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the time, what really sold me on it was like, okay, we can travel, right? Like we can go internationally, and it's a solid position to where, it just didn't feel like that was available in the States at the time, or at least in the trajectory that we were going, it would have taken longer. So it was kind of like a detour, but bump up. That's honestly what it felt like.
Okay, that's cool. For me, I would say I was kind of like losing interest, not gonna lie, because post-graduation, it didn't exactly go as I wanted it to go. I think a lot of people can relate in the, post-university bracket of people. I definitely was kind of lost, and I was like, I did have plans when going, like if we were going to move to Austin, and that could have worked out, and I was going to do something different, but I still was kind of lost. So when you brought up moving to Tokyo, I was like, I'm just gonna do it. Like I'm just gonna take a risk and I'll find something to do. So I think that's what really made it a yes for me, was like the complete unknown and just like a fresh start, That's what really made it a yes for me.
That's really brave of you.
It's scary. It's still kind of scary, not gonna lie. And people have a lot of expectations because they're like, wow, what are you gonna do over there? And it's like, sometimes you just can't worry about what people, want to see from you. You just gotta do. And there's so much here, but definitely there's some things that like I have to build, like some skills, so like language skill and like just different things, so I can actually like anchor myself here for as long as we're here. Yeah. So after we made the decision to move, we had to downsize. Not so much, like we weren't coming from a house, we were coming from a studio apartment. So it wasn't too bad because we used to live like in a 2-bedroom apartment, but we kind of like
Right, like over the years of university, it was like, okay,
Yeah.
2 bed, and then we're like, this is a lot of space. The downside is a little bit, and then the next one, and then we just came to Japan, where like everything's downsized.
Yeah, so we had to downsize, and so we had to figure out what we wanted to donate and what we wanted to take, because we decided we're not going to ship anything. We're only going to bring what fits in our suitcases, like all the suitcases that we own. That's what's going with us. I think we each brought like 2 checked,
Yeah,
and
we
like a
each bought 2
carry-on
checked.
and a backpack.
Yeah,
So that's
about right.
and each of us had that. So like that's still a lot of luggage, but it's still like not all of your like life, I guess, that you
Right,
had.
like if you had to break down, and this is 2 people, if you had to break down like your entire life into 4 suitcases, like think about that.
I mean, some people can do it because there's like some hardcore
there's
minimalists out there.
But like even then, like going from a Texas apartment to like a Japan apartment is very different.
It's different. And then
Yeah.
like just taking it on a plane and stuff. So just
Choosing
for
what
more
to bring.
context, yeah, we came from a 500 square foot studio apartment now to a like 350 square foot
Give or take,
apartment.
yeah.
So they do it a meter squared here, so that's like 33 meters squared. It's like a 1 DK apartment. So what that means is that like there's like a dining room and there's a kitchen and there's like 1 extra room. So how I
Yeah.
see it in States terms, it's like a 1-bedroom apartment.
Essentially.
Essentially is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's pretty small. And like when I first saw those numbers, like 350 square foot, are you kidding me? But Japan is very efficient with their space, and this
Yeah.
actually feels kind of like a big space.
It feels more like a 400 square foot apartment, I will say. Like having been in bigger apartments
True.
and seeing how the space is organized, I will say, you know, US apartments could take a lot of lessons in like space management and like navigation for sure,
True.
because like it doesn't feel as small.
Yeah, it doesn't. And like I said, everything has its place and all the spaces utilized really well. So that's really good. So yeah, we did move to a smaller place, but we knew, okay, we can't bring everything. We did end up donating a lot because we didn't want to ship big furniture. We're just going to start over because we don't know how long we're going to be in Japan. But some things that we did make sure that we brought were some American goodies, because I've heard there's some things that you can't get here that you should probably bring from your native country. So for us, I would say deodorant was something.
1,000.
Yes, I had to stock up on, because apparently their deodorants don't work that well. They're not antiperspirant. I mean, if you follow the whole natural deodorant vibe, you'll be fine. But it's not natural either. So like, I'd still bring something.
For sure. Sprays here are
sprays.
not that great. Like body sprays.
Yeah, and then for all the curly-headed people out there, bring hair supplies, like hair products, styling products, shampoos, conditioners, because it is not a curly-friendly country at all. So I definitely stocked up on that.
Right.
And if you are like, I guess if you are larger sizes, like no shame, do your thing, do you, but definitely bring some clothes, because
At first.
Yeah, at
Because
first.
there are big and tall stores here. You kind of have to like search them out. They do exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, like stores in general here do not cater to larger body frames.
Yeah.
Like whether you're Japanese or not, like sometimes the larger frames can be limited in selection.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
And we
definitely.
do live in Tokyo, so like there are bigger sizes and more stores here, especially like the online stores. So like if you're like living out in the Inaka, which is like the countryside, you may not have that like same luxury, I guess. So definitely bring some of your own clothes, especially things like pants and
Work
like
clothes for sure.
yeah, work clothes, pants, bras. Like definitely, like if you have like a bigger chest area, definitely bring your bras, girl. But yeah, you can always buy online though. There is a lot of shops that do still sell to Japan, but you're gonna pay shipping. So like I said, just bring what you need.
Yes, and Amazon.com and Amazon Japan both offer shipping to Japan. It's just something you want to be aware of, because
Yeah. All right. So amongst the whole moving process, there were a
Right.
lot of legal document prep that we had to do. So
Yeah.
things like getting original documents. So like, you know, your social security, your birth certificate, stuff like that. You know, you probably have most of those already, but if you don't have originals, you need to get those.
True.
Make digital copies.
Yes. And actually, if you're working for somebody, like somebody's contracting you to another country, they're going to request copies of the original. So if your parents have the original, or if you have your original in like a safe or like a bank locker or whatever the case may be, wherever you stored them, you're going to want to get those out and get them in hand.
Yeah, I would have the original, a copy of the original, and a digital version.
1,000.
Exactly. Like a digital meaning like a scanned version. So we had to do that. We had to make sure we got our visas. Since, you know, he was part of the JET program, a lot of these things were kind of like dealt with the JET program. So it was a little bit smoother, but it may be different if you're not coming through that program to Japan.
Yes, always double check your visas, especially when you're coming to another country.
Yes.
You don't want to get surprised. You don't want to get deported.
And then make sure you have your passport. Make sure it's not expired. We also had to make sure our apartment lease contract was ready because we chose an apartment before we moved here.
Yes.
Any certificates. So like we got married, we had to have a marriage certificate, birth certificates, get all that stuff. Pretty much your whole identity. Just bring it.
For some things, you might even have to get them translated. I know for our marriage certificate, because the forms are different, we had to have somebody like translate it word for word.
Yes, and then we had to go to the city hall and then make it like legal in the Japanese certificate way. Like, it was weird, but you do what you got to do. So just be prepared to have your marriage certificate like translated. Also, make sure your bank accounts are ready to go. Make sure you set them on travel mode so that they're not like, hey, why are you purchasing things in Japan?
All of a sudden we see these bills coming out from Japan.
They're
like,
probably going to like put your account on hold if you don't tell them, hey, I'm moving here. Also, if you're into credit cards, definitely try to get a travel credit card that doesn't charge you for international fees. If you're into that, I would say it's a good backup to bring when you're moving on your own to Japan.
It comes in very clutch, because when you come to Japan, a lot of bills or a lot of services require a Japanese bank. And so if you got to get one of those, like if you want to get a Japanese phone number, you got to have a bank.
Yes.
If you want to have automatic bill pay, you got to have a bank. For certain like things like internet and stuff like that, like you have to have a bank. So, you know, getting your like domestic bank stuff or credit card stuff set up beforehand, super important.
That's true. That's very true. And if you have a car back in your native country, you know, sell it or put it somewhere on hold, cancel the car insurance. Yeah, like do all that stuff, cancel your phone bills, like all that legal stuff. And make sure you have a permanent address, like mailing address. Change that with the post office. Do all those things. Renew your driver's license, because if you have to go in person to renew it, you might want to do it before you leave.
Right.
Nowadays, you can do it online, but it really depends on your state.
Right. Just double check for safety, because you never want to...
Yeah, you don't want to have to take the whole driver's test again. Like, just renew it right before you leave.
If you're in Houston and you come home and your driver's license is out of, like, it's, like, expired.
Yeah.
And you got to drive, and a cop pulls you over, and he's like, what the heck, man?
Like, yeah, like, what the heck? Yeah. Anyways, and then also, this is huge. Make sure your phone is unlocked, your cell phone.
Yeah.
Or buy a new phone and make sure it's unlocked so that when you get a new SIM, it could just go in there. Just make sure it's unlocked so you can use it with any service.
Right. So when you say unlocked, what does that mean?
That means you aren't tied to a service provider. So it's not like an AT&T provider phone or Verizon or, you know, all those phone companies. You want it to be like... I don't know, like unlocked.
Yeah, and so unlocked means you can use it wherever.
True.
Basically.
Yeah, it's a kind of like global. It's universal or international. I don't know
about universe. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe global. Nah, but like if you have an AT&T phone,
Galaxy.
Oh my god, that'd be dope. If only.
Okay, but there were some things that we didn't necessarily put importance to, so we would recommend a couple more things to prepare. So. When you move into an apartment, you're going to need furniture. And of course, we knew this, but if you can order furniture ahead of time, get it delivered for when you arrive.
You can schedule the date, the arrival time, all that.
Exactly. Just for like super basics, like a bed or a table and chair, like just like for something, because it's gonna be empty. Like, duh, you should know that. But like,
Right.
just just make sure you do something about that.
And if you get a furnished house, try to find out what's in it.
Yeah,
if
that's
you get
really rare, but like, yeah.
If you go to a share house, you want to know like what the equipment is. Like know what you're going into, and rentals are super clutch.
Yes, exactly. And if you're not gonna have deliveries like coming in when you move in, just know like where to go when you arrive to Japan. Also, just City Hall immigration prep. You do have to do some things within like the first month that you move here. So getting your residence card, your number card.
You get it when you come in. Like they won't let you in unless you have a residence card for work.
Yeah, but there's like some other things, like making sure you get your health insurance and all those kind of things.
Right.
If you need a work stamp, all that stuff.
Yep.
If you have medicine, make sure you figure out the legalities and like what you can bring, how you can resupply. And then
some medicines are not available to purchase here. Some medicines are illegal to import. Some medicines are banned. So know your shit.
Yeah, just look it up. And then make sure you have data, buy it at the airport, or I know we use mobile, not sponsored, but mobile.
I mean, mobile, if you want to sponsor it. Like, what's up?
Yeah, mobile came in clutch. And it can actually be mailed to you in your native country before you move to Japan. So you can have like a SIM, you can literally put it in the plane when you arrive, and then you have data. So just look into that. We'll put a link down below. We're not sponsored, but I don't think we should do that.
Look, mobile, if you want to sponsor us, we'll update that.
All right. We'll see. All right. And
then
up? Just know we all love internet. Y'all are probably on some internet right now listening to us. So look up Wi-Fi companies, internet companies. Just look it up and maybe have like an appointment set up for the first week that you're there, because it's going to be a process.
Yes. And also, like we were talking about with the high tech, not everything is great. So it depends. Like, look into your internet if y'all want us to do an internet episode, because we actually recently switched.
True, to super fast internet.
Super fast.
And it wasn't even like much more expensive. It was like the same price.
All right, y'all. Quick plug. I do stuff on YouTube, story style, STRYSTYL. When I would upload a 5-minute video or a 7-minute video, it would take me like 2-ish hours. Y'all, I uploaded a 20-minute 1080p video in like 7 minutes.
Oh, with the old internet?
No, with the new one.
Oh.
It was like 2 to like 2 hours, give or take.
Oh,
right?
With the old one.
With the old internet.
Okay, that's a difference.
And now I did a 20-minute video. My latest video was 20 minutes. Or one of my latest videos was 20 minutes. It was done in under 10 minutes. It was done. So like Wi-Fi is super important. Look it up. If y'all want us to do an episode, let us know.
Yeah, for sure. We know a lot about internet because we just went through that. So, okay, some extra tips before we move on, how we adjusted to the foreign country. So, know who's reliable back at home. Like, have connections in your native country, because if you need help, like, you need to know who to go to, because some people who move here, y'all are on your own. Like, we're different because, we're married, we came in two, so we have each other. But still, it's very important to know who you can call when some things go down. Be honest when you're before you leave. Be like, hey, can you be like reliable for me if something happens? Like, be honest if you need help. Like, if maybe you need help like shipping some items in the future or right before you go.
Emergency financial backup.
Exactly.
Something.
Like, I mean, of course you should be financially secure. Like, you should do your best to like make sure that you can supply yourself. But sometimes we need help. So definitely see who can be that person for you.
Right.
And, always do an exchange. Like, if someone helps you out, help them out,
right.
That whole thing.
Yeah, these are what I like to call deep ties. So you want to know who you have deep ties with. Like, if you're moving and you want to change your address, but you don't want to open a P.O. box, or if you need somebody to check your P.O. box, or if you want to use your family's address as a permanent address, that's a deep tie right there. If you...
It's true.
Like, we have friends that we chat with pretty much on the daily. That's a connection back to the States, that's a deep tie. Like, you want to have these connections, especially if you're moving somewhere, because I don't think a lot of people, or maybe I don't think enough people talk about the mental strain of moving to a different country where you have to then create your own new circles.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So like those are super, super important.
Yeah. So make sure you have those in mind. All right. So when we flew to Japan, we flew separately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you came a week before me and I came a week after. So what was your individual experience when you first landed? Just like basic.
So I know I mentioned this earlier, but I came with the Japan Exchange teaching program. So as an exchange, what they do is they bring you here like, I got flued out.
You got flued out.
I did. Met up with some of the other people that came at the same time as me, not necessarily from the same place. And we had like an orientation. And we signed our... Well, no, we had an orientation, right? And then we signed our things, and then we went to our separate places. We dispersed. So it was very structured in a sense.
Okay.
So we had a 3-day orientation, and it was like, when I got there, it was just go, 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 go. Like, so I got on the plane and landed. And after meeting with the people, it was pretty much like presentation, information. So like for me, getting out to Japan was like, okay, I have to like hyper focus on every moment. I have to learn how to do this train stuff. I have to learn what a suica is. Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like I could see your role was like, getting the apartment, making sure to go through the orientation, doing that. For me,
like getting the situation right.
Yeah, for me was just making sure to finalize the moving process. So donating final things, making sure what we need. Like if you were like, hey, we need this, like, and I got that. And then honestly, after that, I just got on a plane and I was just like, okay, let's make it safe. It was my first international flight, and it was also right before Harvey hit Houston.
Right.
So there was a huge possibility that I couldn't even like leave. Like
it was dangerous too, because if Harvey would have hit while you were in the air, that's terrible. I
mean, they probably would have shut it down, but like literally I was probably one of the last couple of flights that left.
Because I remember when you were coming, like you were in the air, other teachers saw on the news that Harvey was hitting. And then they were like, hey, is your wife okay? I was like, I don't know, she's on the plane.
I know. I was like, I didn't even know. And I was worried for my family because I was like, dang, like it's hitting Houston. So that was a whole experience. And then once I got to Japan, I was just kind of like, when you're like, you float, like, sorry, you've been flying so long, you feel kind of drunk and you're just like not even thinking about what just happened. So
it's like jet lag.
For me, it was just getting used to the new environment. So that was just kind of like my experience when I first got here. Yeah.
What would you say is like if somebody hasn't flown internationally before, do you have any like special tips for them?
Definitely bring some of your favorite snacks that are TSA approved, of course, or whatever. Like dry snacks. Bring like a little jacket. I don't know, anything that makes you feel comfortable and safe. Bring that. Of course, don't bring too much. I think try to lessen your load because you're gonna be the one carrying it. So
yeah, that's true.
Definitely what makes you feel safe and comfortable. Do that, and then honestly, just think peaceful thoughts.
All right.
Yeah.
Hope you're enjoying this episode. If you'd like to hear us ramble about another topic, head over to our Instagram and Twitter to suggest something or ask us a question. Subscribe and follow us on all our platforms to stay updated. Links will be in the description, and let's get back to the podcast. And we're back.
All right, so let's talk about adjusting because like that was a whole process. Moving to a foreign country, moving internationally, adjustment was a thing. So let's talk about some initial thoughts that we had from central, like the city, to suburbia, because we did move to the suburb. I don't know. It's definitely like super residential. There's a lot more schools. Like you definitely see like the family side of Japan.
Yeah. That side doesn't really get like a lot of promo. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. It was like a little bit more slow paced and like
more old people.
Yeah. More elders. Definitely. Yes. Cause like the airport and the central area was very like bustly, you know, like everyone's like here, there, you know, like rushing. And it's kind of like party vibes and all that stuff. But in the suburbs,
super
it's
high.
like, oh, let's just chill, you know, let's just go to the market, let's go to the mall.
Let's go on a picnic.
Yeah, picnics, let's go fish, let's go this. And so that's something that I definitely saw. There's definitely more greenery, more nature. Yeah, and definitely more cars because I guess people,
Yeah.
you know, drive out back to the city.
Okay, my initial thoughts were when I first got here, we were driving from the airport to wherever we're going on a bus. And so I had my head outside the window the whole time. And like,
Nice.
yeah, it was real cool. There was some dudes that came up in a Jeep and they're like, oh, hey. I was like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, it was like really
That's
weird.
awesome.
It was cool, but like it was super city. Like,
Yeah.
thinking downtown, but like a huge downtown. And then when I came out here, like my teacher took me out here and he was like, all right, we're gonna get on this train and we're gonna go out. And like on the train as we were going, I saw like less buildings and more trees, and there's already a lot of trees in the city. So I was like, okay, trees, wow, trees, river
rivers,
trees,
yeah.
mountains. Like I was like, am I still in Tokyo? Like, what's going on?
I know. I was like, is this technically like the countryside? No.
Nah, it's just like
it's like suburbs,
yeah.
mountainous.
And
The mountains, though.
A lot of people do think of city when they think of Tokyo, and I fell into that trap.
Yeah.
So when we came out here, I was like,
Yeah,
damn, I went from like Texas to like the Texas of Tokyo. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, Tokyo's actually pretty big. Y'all should look it up on a map. Like, there's more than just that little Harajuku, Shibuya, like that whole area. Like,
because technically it counts as like a state, like Tokyo State, and then Tokyo City, and like
yeah,
it's bananas.
Yeah. Something I also noticed was like, okay, there was some English. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, how did you read or see anything? How did you know where you were going? Definitely at the airport, it's, you know, multilingual. There's English, but it's definitely a shock because everything is in Japanese here. Like, all the signs,
and we
everything.
came 2 years ago, right? 2017 towards the end. Even then, there was less English than there is now.
Oh yeah. So things that help are like Google Translate.
For sure.
You know, just kind of get the camera and be like, hey, what does that say? Study Japanese. When we heard about the whole, like, let's go to Tokyo, the whole jet program, we had like a month and a half. A lot of jets have like either like a couple months or half year notice. We had a month and a half. So, and we didn't even think the whole Japan thing was going to work. So we didn't prep.
So like real quick, if y'all want to hear the jet process, that's a whole different thing. But like essentially you find out in like March or April if you're going to go in June or July. They didn't tell us anything. And then in like June or July, they're like, hey, do you want to come in August?
And we're like, shit, yes.
Let's,
I mean,
okay,
we can't miss this opportunity. Like,
and that was essentially what happened. So like we had less time than usual to prepare, and it wasn't just one person, it's two people.
Exactly. So definitely, if you can, study Japanese, Google Translate, like we said, and just be friendly. Maybe ask some locals, and you know, that might help.
Yeah.
Honestly, maybe have a friend who is bilingual.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Look up the company Illy, I want to say.
Oh, yeah. The little like...
yeah. It looks like a little...
remote translator.
You remember the old iPod shuffles?
Yeah, it kind of looks like that.
It looks kind of like that.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you say the thing in your native tongue and then it translates to Japanese. I don't know how accurate it is, but I know it's a hit.
A lot of people use it.
Yeah.
And we never got a chance to use it, but I guess that's good because we just practice like speaking
and
more.
I think because we're living here, it would be kind of like a crutch.
Yeah,
you know, so I think it's better to like really push yourself to like learn the language and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. All right. And then so what was really different for me was like how much walking there is here. Because like I was only driving in Texas. Like I barely walked. Like I parked and then walked to the store, walked back to the car, and then drove. And like I only walked if it was like exercise.
Yeah, and another thing is like walking is definitely a big part of the culture, but also you can walk so much. Like
like
I was not expecting to walk as much as we do now.
Yeah, because it's so walk friendly. Like it's more for pedestrians here. So like if you walk or bike, there's a lane for you. And if anything, cars have to get out of the way because everyone walks and bikes.
And also you see things when walking that you would miss if you're driving, for sure.
Yeah, and definitely driving's different here too. You drive on the left.
Yes.
Yeah, so
and
like
the rules are a little bit different. The signs are a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean it's a different country. It makes sense, but definitely if you're into biking and walking, you think you'll really love it in Japan.
1000%. I want to get a bike.
Yes, we don't have bikes actually because we thought we weren't going to stay here past like 2 years.
That could be a story time of like how we got to that decision, but we definitely did not come here being like, oh yeah, let's chill, let's kick it for a little bit.
Yeah, we're like, oh, we'll probably be out of here in 2 years, and now it's the second year. We're like, we're probably gonna be here for another few years. Let's get a bike.
Right.
There's also buses and trains. So like we mentioned with the IC card, you just put money on it, you get on a bus, you tap, pay. Same thing with trains. You can literally go like all over Japan.
Right. And I think that the IC cards can hold a maximum of 20,000 yen, which is
it's like
give or take $200.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's super cheap.
Exactly.
So like you can just load up like once you get paid and just boop, boop, boop.
Yep. And I think that's really cool. And it makes you very like independent. You know, you don't need like licenses. You just you do your favorite transportation and you get where you're going. There are cars. We don't know that much about cars, but you can look it up and you can definitely get a license here.
Yeah, some jets even do get licenses.
Yeah, that's definitely a different way that people enjoy Japan. I'm sure it's really cool. Like you can be like the carpooler, like taking everyone to the beach or something. Like dope, like that would be cool. So something else that's different is restaurants. So there's a lot less fast food chains than the States. But also restaurants, instead of having their own, like of course there's restaurants on their own, but like usually restaurants are all in like one tall building of like 8 floors.
Yeah, like a department store or something.
Like a mall department store, and you just go in and like you can shop, and then there's usually like a couple of floors where it's just restaurants. So that was really different. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, Japan is like a weird blend of like, if you want to think about the US in timelines, it's a blend of like the 50s and then the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
In 2019. Like that's
it's weird, but it works.
Yeah.
It works for them.
They find a way to make it work, but it's so interesting because like the department store thing and like where we live out here, there's more restaurants like on their own, but like it's like strips of restaurants or like all in one area,
or it's like in an alleyway, like and then there's definitely a lot of markets. So like there's bound to be a food market like walking distance. Like we walk to get groceries, and we have like I think 2 or 3 grocery stores that we can go to nearby.
True.
So we have a choice. And then there's like farmers markets type stuff. People also like just grow stuff in their lawns. Like
very true.
More people have farms or gardens as lawns here.
Yeah, at least where we live. Because we've seen a bunch of houses in our area that instead of having like grass, like they do. Some of them have like that Japanese like garden aesthetic. Where it's
like the Zen garden vibe.
Yeah. But usually people are growing some kind of fruit or vegetable.
Exactly. But now, like it's the same thing. Not a lot of people have lawns, but like if you have land, they're probably growing like produce. So I think that's really cool.
That are like super narrow, they'll have like window stuff. Like
that's true.
It's something, but not a lot of lawns.
Not a lot, but if there is, it's gonna be useful, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, all right. So if you're coming to Japan, make sure you get your money exchanged for cash.
Yes.
Japanese yen.
Super important.
And because you're going to be using a lot of cash, like don't even worry about your debit or credit. Like those can come in clutch for like big items.
Yes.
But you're going to be using cash for a lot of things.
Yeah. So like we said before, make sure you have some kind of cash, not cash, like a debit or credit card so you can do stuff like, you know,
True.
If you need to buy a bed or if you need to buy like furniture or whatever, like most stores will take it. But yeah, you can literally pay cash anywhere. And if anything, it's just easier. Like when in doubt, just bring cash. Just that's it. Like you'll be able to buy just anything with cash. And there is a cash card
So you can store all your cash in there, and then you just go to ATM and then pull out the money, so you don't have to carry like thousands of dollars in your.
Yes, so banks will give you a cash card, but then you have to pay extra for a debit card. So
it's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
All right, let's close off this episode with our final thoughts of Tokyo. So, how long can you see yourself staying here? Like, how much longer?
So, it's been I almost said it's been 5 years. It's been 2 years. And I can see myself living here for about 7 years.
Wow.
Right. And again, that might change. I don't know, the last year was kind of a blur, or the last 2 years was kind of a blur,
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. So my personal cap is 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What about you?
So for me, okay, so this might sound a little weird, but I can see myself staying here for a decade. Like, including the 2 years that we're here.
Like a whole decade.
A whole decade. So I could stay here for another 8 years. No problem. Yeah, I kind of like it. It's very convenient. There's some things I'm getting used to, but it's not that bad. And if I stayed that long, I'd probably want to move around Japan, because Tokyo is kind of annoying, not gonna lie.
Right.
So if I hit the 10th year and I'm like, I still want to live here, I definitely would move.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Do you have any ideas you want to see in the other areas or whatever?
Honestly, I would check out the Kansai area.
All right.
Yeah. Or even try up north, but like the winters though. So I might stick to the south. Thing. Okay, what's something you're still getting used to? Like, you're still not really over it, and you're adjusting.
There's 2 things, actually.
Okay.
Number 1 is I do feel a sense of like being illiterate. I'm in Japanese, by the way. Just a heads up. I mean,
you wouldn't
English
be a
right
teacher.
Yeah, so
if you were illiterate in
No,
English.
I'm talking about like reading and writing Japanese. It's very difficult for me. That's always been the case for me when it comes to language learning and acquisition. I've always been able to speak much easier than I've been able to pick up reading and writing, except for English. I think maybe it's because I learned it all at once. But yeah, like other languages, for me, reading and writing is hard.
Okay, yeah, because you're a polyglot. You know multiple languages.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense why you can speak Japanese a lot easier than reading it. All right.
Yeah, I have another thing, but what is something you aren't used to yet? It's been 2 years. What do you think?
All right, so the language is a big thing, but I'm actually studying and I'm doing better, and reading is not that bad for me. It's speaking. But something that I'm still not used to is the stares. Like, people staring at me.
Oh.
And it's not just like, oh, like they're curious. Oh my God, Gaijin. Like, look at her. It's microaggressions. It's sometimes kind of angry looks.
Those have a different energy.
Yeah, and disgusted looks. And that just doesn't make me feel good. It's not every single body that stares at me, but like, it's very common.
I feel that.
And that's something I want to get into in future episodes about microaggressions towards like Black and brown people like us here. And my experience isn't the worst. I have heard worse situations.
There's quite a few horror stories.
But on the individual level, like on my everyday, that does not feel good. So I'm still not used to it, but I do cope a lot better. I've learned, because Japan is so different from the States. So it's something I'm getting used to. And because I do like deal with social anxiety, that's just like amped up in Japan.
Yeah. And so on that note, actually, social anxiety is another thing that I'm not used to. Like, people socialize very differently here, like from the States. And then getting used to that, like, different body language, that different ways of people like hanging out and talking to each other, that is something I'm still not used to. Like, I'm not quite sure where I stand with people sometimes, and to me is like, it kind of gives me that social anxiety, which I may not have had before. Like, it's kind of that like outsider syndrome where you don't really know where you fit in different situations. So that's one thing that I'm still not used to. So that's the second thing. Like, yeah,
that can be a big thing. Like, I think those two combined, like not knowing the language that well, and then social anxiety. Ooh,
I can't even imagine like if I couldn't speak. Fuck.
Yeah, those are things that we definitely are getting better at. And honestly, if you're learning how to cope and you have a community or someone to talk to, And if you're studying, these things can easily get better. And even if you're about to move to Japan or you want to visit, definitely, make sure you know how to cope with, things that you deal with, so that when you come here, it's not like spiked and you're very uncomfortable.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, that's it for the first episode.
First
bye,
episode
everyone.
Done. Bye, y'all.
Thanks for listening to the Abnormal Japan podcast. Stay tuned for future content by following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Support us by leaving us a review, sharing us on your socials, or even joining the Abnormy community on Patreon. Until next time.